was a roller coaster ride.
I hope the update's not 3 hours long, because that's how it was when we were doing reflective roofing.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be impossible not to take that long. No doubt about that.
I can't forget.
Citizens and comments were historically long, yeah.
It's like, well, nobody's going to do it for 3 minutes, why do I have to do it?
All right, everybody. I have 6 o'clock.
Me too.
We're gonna start off with residential survey on household waste and recycling results. Yay.
Thank you for queuing me up like that. I appreciate that, Mayor.
Yeah.
Good evening, Council. I wanted to bring forward the results of a residential survey that we conducted. So this was with help with a C3 Steps Technical Assistance Grant. We got that in 2025. And basically the impetus was we knew that the Extended Producer Responsibility Act was going to be benefiting Coloradans. It was going to be providing free recycling in 2026 and 2027. And we wanted to kind of get ahead of that policy and learn about the recycling habits within Salida, understand residents' access and satisfaction with their current system, and also do a sneaky little information education campaign about the future, which is free recycling. This also built off of a survey in 2023. Okay, I always ask Julie because she knows, that Garna did about recycling. So it also gives us a little bit of information over time of how Salidans recycle or not, or any obstacles, any barriers, any positives, any negatives. So through a lot of work, a lot of community engagement, a lot of flyers, a lot of postcards, we got actually over 1,000 responses. Majority, almost all of them in English, but we did get 2 responses in Spanish. We took those responses, and through the technical assistance grant, they came out with both an executive report, which is included in your packet, but also a longer report that you guys also saw that was like 46 some odd pages. So we took that information, and then we had an additional opportunity. That opportunity was to work with a team of graduate students from Western University. They are sitting right behind me. This is Alex Dalton, Zoe De Benedetti. Yes? Great. Ashley Mooney and Sonia Stephen. They took both the raw data of that survey and the information that the grantors created, the report that they created for us, and they brought forward some additional information, additional policy recommendations. Basically, we really wanted to milk this for all of it's worth, get all of the information we could out of this survey. We also took the policy recommendations that the Western students created in front of our sustainability committee. So the policy students, I will let them present in just 2 seconds, but I did want to note that they're going to go through their presentation. They're going to do the breadth of the survey work. They're going to bring forward some policy recommendations. We did the additional step of bringing it forward to the Sustainability Committee, and they did do a vote and recommended 2 of the 3 policy recommendations to council. So you all are free to obviously choose the gamut or just the recommendations of the Sustainability Committee, but we really wanted to make sure we provided you with a thorough information. So with that, I am going to let our wonderful grad students take it away.
All right.
Welcome.
Yeah. Clap, clap.
Where do you want? The third attachment? Okay. The final presentation? Correct.
And their professor is Dominique Nacarado.
Oh, that's awesome.
All right.
Cool. Okay, well, thank you guys so much for having us. We're super excited to tell you about what we've been working on for the past semester. This is just sort of the intro slide. You already heard our name, so you can go to the next slide. Just a quick overview, very high level of what we were working on. So following up on what Sarah said, the Sustainable Chafee conducted a survey, this survey that we analyzed at the end of 2025 in response to another one as well, in preparation for the EPR to hopefully take effect in Salida this year. The project we worked on aimed to prepare Salida for the changes from this EPR program, increase recycling participation rates as recycling becomes more affordable and free for most residents, and to prepare Sustainable Chafee and the city of Salida for educational outreach about this program and about recycling best practices. Next, please. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna go over the Extended Producer Responsibility Program. I have heard that you guys are aware of it somewhat, so I'm just gonna hit on some of the points relevant to Salida. That is that waste haulers, the 3 private waste haulers in Salida, will be reimbursed for hauling recycling through the Circular Action Alliance, CAA. It is the hauler's choice to participate in that, but all 3 have indicated that they will. And the CAA, there's also a possibility for them to reimburse public outreach and education campaign for Salida, and possibly some future public drop-off locations and signage as well. And bottom line, that recycling will be free for your residents.
Yeah, so these next couple slides are based off of, just going to be some graphs and some information from the results of that waste survey that was given out to Salida residents. Just to give some context for some of the policy recommendations and the educational materials that Sonia and Ashley are going to talk about a little bit later in the presentation. So this graph is just showing some barriers for respondents that responded that they never recycle. The big one to point out is definitely cost, that high cost of curbside pickup. And then they also talked a lot about issues in access and infrastructure. So not having access to that curbside pickup at all, and then not having a lot of access to those recycling drop-off sites. Go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So this graph is just showing some support needs that residents said would help them to recycle and participate more. Again, kind of similar to the barriers that they wish that curbside pickup was a little bit lower cost. They say they want better access to it, more recycling drop-off points as well. Something else to point out about this slide is residents also asked for easy to access recycling guides on what to recycle, and also education on where those recyclable materials go. Some respondents that said that they don't often recycle also expressed that they were skeptical about how effective recycling services are in general. So really targeting those educational materials could be important in improving those participation rates and improving trust as well. Go to the next slide, please. Okay. This graph is just a little bit about overall resident satisfaction with Salida recycling pickup services. Overall, residents were satisfied with frequency of pickup and those rollout cart bin qualities like size and color. There was a little bit of variety in bin size and bin color, but overall residents reported that that size was sufficient for the amount of waste that they produced, and also that it was easy for them to distinguish between their recycling and their trash bins, mostly due to differences in lid colors and consistency in labeling. And then again, really quickly to point out, a lot of those neutral and dissatisfied responses are surrounding access to educational material. So yeah, just something to kind of keep in mind and point out. Go to the next slide.
Great. Hi. By the way, I'm super nervous, so bear with me. So yeah, we came up with a couple of policies regarding, understanding that the EPR program is kind of coming into place, understanding that a big concern when it came to a lot of residents was price. As was stated earlier, it seems about 2 out of these 3 policies have kind of been something that has been of interest. So the first one is a waste hauler licensing and standardizing, containers program. With the licensing, that would be pretty much like a neutral, understanding and agreement between all of the haulers of what's to be expected when it comes to the EPR program specifically, and, who is supposed to, be in what districts and areas of Salida. When it comes to the standardized containers, we are really looking at originally with there being bins specifically of, okay, all of the haulers are going to have blue bins be recycling and gray being compost and gray being landfill, just to kind of give some colors. Of course, those colors can, change, but we were kind of looking as well at price. So we know that for haulers as well, that can be very, very expensive. So instead of changing the bins in total, we decided maybe just changing the lid colors of all of the hauler bins would maybe be something that would be a little bit more acceptable and something that haulers would be more okay with. Of course, this is something that we would be interested in doing in a phase-in program in order to kind of reduce some of those cost burdens. We, can acknowledge and understand that there may be some haulers that have a little bit more flexibility when it comes to financing, changing all of the bins, lids specifically, that can be a burden. With all of these policies, there is the conversation of cost. Alex Dalton later on will be talking about some ways that we can mitigate that. But, there has been a lot of concern when it comes to the citizens of Salida about, okay, I'm walking, down the street, I want to recycle. I don't know which bin to recycle because my hauler has different recycling colors than the next. So we want to make sure that, there's some understanding, all around when it comes to that, which we thought would probably be very helpful. Next slide. Or not.
Is it the next slide? Oh, what happened? Sorry.
No worries. Great. Our next policy recommendation. So based off of the survey, 70% of those who took the survey said that they would be interested in composting if compost was free. Now we can understand as well that that is not necessarily within the allowance of the EPR program, but there are ways that we can kind of help citizens do that, specifically in Gunnison, Colorado, which is where Western Colorado is, where a lot of us reside. We have a ability at the university for students to compost, as well as in town between Mountain Roots, which is one of the local planters, and as well we have a drop-off location right next to the city market, which offers free areas to compost. So something like that I think would be a good idea, as well as when it comes to businesses themselves, doing a phase-in implementation of requiring compost to happen, going from the Walmart and the Safeway and different areas like that, all the way down to the daycares and the schools of, there's a lot of food waste that happens within different businesses. Let's try to mitigate that as much as possible. That also reduces the amount of waste that goes into our landfills, which reduces, carbon dioxide emissions and, helps in so many different areas. That, compost as well can go into different programs in different areas that the city of Salida might be interested in. Like I said, in Gunnison, and of course, I know that Gunnison and Salida are not, the same, but Mountain Roots in Gunnison has, a little farm right by the rec center, and they have one by the school, and these are different areas that the community can come together to compost, to farm, to have different ways for people to get, organic produce. And so that might be something that the city may be interested at some point. But right now it's just kind of coordinating, maybe with a regional compost partner on different ways that, commercial organics can be diverted from landfills. Next slide. Great. And then the last policy recommendation that we are bringing forward to you today is recycling infrastructure for multifamily housing. So for this, all new family housing developments, so about 4+ units, and qualifying redevelopment projects would include designated spaces for recycling, organics, and landfill containers. These multifamily, developments would include townhouses, apartments, different things of that sort. Of course, it'd be a lot harder, to make sure with every single house, throughout Salida would be a little bit difficult. There has also been concern when it comes to some of the rural areas just right outside the town about their ability to, recycle and do these different things. Obviously, with some of these haulers, it's difficult in the wintertime to come in, with areas not being plowed or whatever it is. So maybe with that, having different drop-off locations for them as well. We really wanted to make sure that with this, that there was some representation from some of the rural developments around. Of course, we understand that with this, that there would need to be some coordination with Chaffey County Building Department to kind of explore the different development standards in town. But we believe that this would kind of, prioritize some of those high-density housing and low-income areas to really make sure that they are supported in their waste development and diversion needs. Next slide.
So this slide just has a little bit of background information on whether residents had ever received education on recycling before, and most reported that they had not. It also provides a little bit of information about a baseline of how much they had known previously about EPR, with 89% reporting that they had never heard of it before. That waste survey that went out had a little bit of informational text kind of describing EPR to them. And after reading that, 98% reported that they understood the material. And this is promising because it just kind of shows that concise educational materials like brochures and flyers can be really, really effective in spreading the word to the community about EPR. Yeah, go to the next slide, please.
And on that note, part of what I contributed to this project was a few outreach materials for the city of Salida about EPR and about recycling in general. I won't go into too much detail here, but these are just a few examples. The one all the way to the left is sort of a bit more of a wordy overview of what the EPR is. The one in the middle is just more general about attracting people to learning more about the EPR program. And then this last one was geared more towards children or young people, could be populated throughout the schools or throughout programming with Garna over the summer or something similar. Next slide, please. And then I also created a few roadmaps for the city and for Sustainable Chaffey to work with when it comes to implementing the EPR program outreach in Salida. The challenging part is that we don't know exactly when it's going to take effect here. I think the estimated date is early mid-fall, but that could very well change. But this kind of helps create a framework of what to roll out and when and how far in advance. Some different outreach ideas, whether it's in social media posts, events throughout the summer, and things of that nature. Next slide. And then I didn't include the full write-up that I did, but I also came out with some outreach concepts and ideas, again, for different ways to get in touch with citizens of Salida. And a big piece of that is going to be partnering with local organizations like Salida Mountain Trails, Garna, Salida School District, and any others. Next.
Yeah, so as part of this project, we were lucky enough to connect with EcoCycle out of Boulder, which happens to be the oldest recycling organization in the United States. And they produce something annually called the Colorado State of Recycling. And they found in 2025 State of Recycling that participation in waste diversion programs increases about 20% with two key factors: staff capacity and adequate funding. And so I just wanted to go over some of the main roles that sustainability staff carries out in carrying out this program, from program design with implementation and execution, and also trying out pilot services should you try to implement them, stakeholder communication and coordination. So making sure that messaging is clear and consistent across all stakeholders. They could report their progress and any gaps to city council and any other stakeholders, and track the amount of waste that's being diverted from the landfill. If you decide to install a public drop-off site, they could help possibly maintain and install that site and apply signage. And then with the upcoming construction of the waste transfer station as well, that's going to be another relevant site that you need sustainability staff to manage. And the main thing they bring to the table is community engagement and equity. So reaching out throughout these different platforms and media outlets, hosting outreach and education events, partnering with schools and local groups and nonprofits, providing multilingual materials so there's equity and access, and really reaching out to underserved communities, and ensuring fair access throughout the community. Next slide, please. And second part of that, funding opportunities, I wanted to present a few opportunities for funding for Salida. So on the left, we have two organizations mentioned before, Colorado Circular Action Alliance, CAA, and Colorado Circular Communities Enterprise. It's from what I understand, Colorado Circular Action Alliance has taken on most of the responsibility, but they would be able to reimburse they are going to be reimbursing for recycling, composting, hauling to the private haulers, but they can also reimburse public drop-off infrastructure and funding outreach and education opportunities. And on the right, our Next Cycle Colorado is for private businesses. They do free consulting with local businesses where they help brainstorm with them to pitch them opportunities and find potential funding to increase waste diversion. And finally, Western Colorado Community Foundation specifically funds and provides grants for nonprofits. So it's something that Salida could partner with local nonprofits like Garna to help expand education and opportunities and possibly some of the infrastructure. Next slide, please. And so just wanted to summarize 3 quick wins that are easily accessible that we found. One would be to launch a public education campaign about the EPR program to preempt its rollout. This would explain what EPR is and how it changes recycling, making it free for residents. And it would could also provide clear guidance on what can be recycled and how to do so correctly. 2 would be to standardize recycling bin lids across haulers, as Ashley mentioned in her policy. A consistent color system across the 3 haulers would cut down on confusion and cross-contamination of wastes. And 3 would be to install a public recycling drop-off point in high visibility, high trafficked areas that are easy to access. And these would be drop-off locations for people in more rural areas or residents who don't use private haulers currently, and also for visitors, which I know tourism is a strong part of the economy here. And this is something that could possibly be reimbursed through CAA later with their funding. Next slide, please. And in conclusion, I just wanted to leave up some of the key quotes that we pulled from the residents survey that really reflect our findings, mainly that Salidans are really willing and want to recycle. And so this EPR program is an opportunity to expand that, and also that better education and outreach has the potential to increase participation. And with that, we thank you for your time and the opportunity to talk to you today. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good
Any,
job.
oh yeah,
Very nice.
I guess we'll save questions for.
Yeah, I really want to commend these folks. They've done an amazing work, and I think they brought forward some really compelling arguments. So I just wanted to be up here and follow up to see if there was any questions, feedback, any policy recommendations that you really like, you really don't like.
I had, well, first, what was the, I can't remember if it was a compost hauler or just a partner, Mountain Roots, you guys said? Are they, what are they? Are they a hauler, or are they a regional compost partner, or are they just a little bit of everything?
Yeah, hi. So they are a nonprofit organization that brings produce specifically to the valleys. So they will also, with that, take compost from Gunnison and bring it into their, little patches of different areas, I guess. Bring it along the beds, tumble it, make sure it's all, nice and fine, then use it in their, their different beddings, their different gardens. Then community members are allowed to go into those gardens, pick whatever produce they want to, and it's a really good way for the community as well to get involved. They do dig-in days, which are, currently happening to kind of get ready for the spring and the summer. For me, that was just a really big example, I guess, of how compost can be used on a local scale without it going to Denver or to Texas or wherever it goes, and it can stay in the community, it can stay local and be used, and you know exactly what it's being used for. And like I said, it's a way with Mountain Roots specifically, like I said, they're local to Gunnison, but they do CSA boxes to where you can, say, okay, for $30 a month, Mountain Roots will bring you a shipment of produce that is grown locally, that is in part done with the compost. For me, that was, like I said, just a really good example of something that happens in Gunnison that compost can be used for. So yeah, just a little bit of clarification on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And also, just a question on the quick wins. I love a presentation that has quick wins. Always looking for quick wins. Public education, yes. Standardized containers, maybe there's like a phase-in element. Installing public recycling drop-off points.
Yeah.
I just want to hear about how quick that win could be. I'm remembering like the last day I saw our local recycling that we used to have drop off, and somebody had dropped like a huge like old television there, and I think part of it exploded. Like they explode because they're like highly pressurized.
Yeah, that's a
I don't know
painful
like
story.
how quick. But yeah, I just wanted to.
So one of the benefits of CAA is that they provide different funding for municipalities. We talked a little bit about the education and outreach, but another potential that we're going after is to see if they will fund recycling drop-off sites. So this wouldn't be we wouldn't be paying for it as a city of Salida. We would likely put out an RFP with one of our waste haulers, see if they, who would be the best option to manage it. We would determine a site, likely a site manager. One of the conversations we're having with Sustainable Chafee right now is to phase this in and maybe just start with a cardboard drop-off recycling. We hear from our local businesses that cardboard accumulation is just a huge pain point. And so that might be a really easy way to start. Less mess, less fuss, and we can kind of see how successful it is and move forward from that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions while we're?
I guess it's not a question,
Oh.
but, it's just work session, right?
Yeah, you can,
Okay.
you can speak.
But just for the three policies that were proposed, I think I really like the multifamily one, like requiring it in those developments, and having that in our land use code so that, like you're saying, like it's accessible to a lot of people that way. It's a lot of birds with one stone. So I really do want to support that one. For the commercial composting, so I know that we do compost over at Sweetie, so it is possible to get businesses into that mindset. However, I think right now, we actually just had a food distributor come in and let us know that there's going to be a new line item for our deliveries because of the EPR program. So the cost is getting put on to other places, free for us as constituents, right, the recycling, but, so I kind of would caution pushing this one right now, only because I think businesses would want to see what the impacts would be first from these, the new fees and everything, before we then are just requiring them to also start another program. And for the hauler licensing fee, I know we talked about it a little bit in Sustainability Committee. Could you speak a little bit to like, what does that cost look like? Is it feasible for the organizations? Because we have it right now for the county. So could you speak to that a little bit? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Martin. Councilmember Martin is highlighting some of the recommendations that our Sustainability Committee made as well. So they also encouraged the recycling infrastructure for multifamily housing, also felt like commercial organics and division requirements is very important, but maybe is a wait and see. And then specifically with the first policy recommendation, wanted to move forward with the waste hauler licensing program, but maybe not the standardized containers as of yet. The waste hauler licensing program, there is currently one within the county. It's very minimal. It's a nominal amount, and there's not a lot of data that comes with it. So our proposal would be to have a licensing program and have some information that comes with the licensing. So we would like to know how much trash and recycling is moved, what areas they move it from, where do they go to Colorado Springs, do they go to Denver? A lot of this is we wouldn't want to make it taxing on our haulers. We really value the service that they provide, but we think the additional data would really behoove the city as we move forward with other policy decisions.
Excellent.
And I would hope that before you decide on the lid colors, that everybody's thinking about that. You know, makes sense to me that that's down the road, but that there's a plan and an agreement. So if they're replacing lids, they can go ahead and get the right color.
I just remember, I think it was back 2000, 2005, I worked for Angela Chabonneau Recycling, which ran the recycling center behind the Hot Springs pool. And kind of what Mary was saying earlier, probably half of my work week was pulling stuff out of those bins that weren't supposed to be there because they were unmanned sites. I mean, I pulled lawnmowers, I pulled TVs, it was amazing the stuff that people thought they could just drop on the ground and leave it. So I'd like to see, and of course that all went away because finding the funding for it at that time was impossible. Nobody wanted to give, and we didn't have the mainstream. We could just dump it all in one. You couldn't find an employee, you couldn't pay enough employees to go through and pick everything out when it got back to the facilities. And so it kind of just, fell unfortunately, went away. But yeah, I'd like to see, like, just knowing where that money or how those facilities are going to be, fully manned. I like starting out with the cardboard. That makes it a lot easier for people. I mean, it seemed like as much education that we would post on the trailers themselves, big banners that said what goes in what trailer. People still just couldn't figure it out. And then they'd get, we didn't have the support or the manpower to keep them, empty as well as we should have. So they'd get full and then people would just dump it on the ground. And so half of my work week was cleaning up that site. And so I'd like to see, that have a little bit more focus on those drop sites, somebody there at all times, being able to fund that person to be able to, educate people face to face, because you can send out flyers, you can send out stuff, stationery or whatever, it has the education written right there on it to their mailboxes. People just kind of they'll breeze by it and doesn't really. So if you have somebody there kind of walking around and telling them, hey, this is where this goes, educating them face to face, that's kind of what I'd like to see if it comes back to that.
Great, thank you.
Anybody else? I think we have more though, right? We have more presentation happening, or is that?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
I mean, look, I can talk all day. Don't get me wrong. So it sounds like there's, if the possibility through CAA comes through, it sounds like there is interest in a drop off for cardboard only to start to minimize mess, with an opportunity for a site manager in a specific location that makes sense. Is there any other policies that speak to you?
I guess in the talking about the colors of the lids, I mean, that's a pretty big undertaking to change out. I mean, I think that each one of those bins have 4 to 5 bolts on them that you take those lids off, and I guess, you'd rotate them out through your warehouse, but I mean, you ever thought about maybe just rolling out some big colored stickers, I guess, to just kind of start it all out and just be able to plaster them on the bins that way to kind of get it started, and then eventually roll through with, different colored lids or different colored bins after that or something, but.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. I think that's why the Sustainability Committee wanted to lean towards the waste hauler licensing first. And then as more information came out, more opportunities, maybe stickers, maybe other funding sources where the cost isn't incurred by our haulers, then that conversation could be brought back up.
And it seems like there needs to be limited hours of opening if it needs to be staffed, and it does. It needs to be staffed. We've seen what happens when people are left to their own devices.
Okay.
And thank you also to the students here, our grad
Yeah.
students. Yeah, this is a lot of work and you guys did great and you're gonna make an impact for our community and that's the whole point. So thank you.
Couldn't even tell you were terrified of public speaking. I really didn't
Yeah.
have a sense of it at all.
No, yeah, our Western students have been amazing, and I also always like to give a shout out to Sustainable Chafee, which is funded through a grant that we received. Julie Mock and Madeline have been invaluable to the city. So I wanted to thank you guys for your time.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Sarah.
Appreciate it. Right, up next, we have Arts and Culture Advisory Commission update.
Hi. I can keep this short, but a little background. We merged 2 departments. We changed the name of one of the advisory commissions from Public Art Commission to Arts and Culture Advisory Commission, expanded its scope, and we're trying to standardize, their procedures. Part of that being giving you guys an update twice a year. So the PROS comes twice a year and gives an update. We try to do sometime in the first quarter, almost, and then last quarter, kind of, or right before budget season, because their jobs are to provide advisement on how to prioritize projects, staff time, budget allocation. So we are here with kind of the first update from the new Arts and Culture Advisory Commission. Reed Govert, the chairperson of that commission, is here, and he is going to help out Catherine Wadsworth, who's going to be kind of leading this one. The PROST update that you recently received was led by John Turbush. He's been the chairperson for a while, and their procedures are pretty well set. So during this transition time, we're really trying to help the ACAC understand their role, what you've asked them to do, and how they need to go about doing that. How do they solicit feedback from the community? And then how do they make recommendations to you? So this is kind of our first go at it, and we're all here for questions. Feel free to ask as we roll this out.
As she struts up to the podium.
Thank you, everyone. Again, I'd like to recognize Reed, our president, and Lindsay, our vice president. And of course, thank you to Diesel for being our fearless leader. Be our guest, we're all about it. Art, parks, recreation, and culture. Big shift, big change here in the last 6 months or so. 2 divisions become 1 department. Little reminder background that Parks and Recreation were over here, Arts and Culture were over here, and now they are really together under 1 department. This has had some very nice benefits to it as far as budget. It's a comprehensive budget now that we can all work with together, and Diesel can manipulate a little bit at the end of the year and so on to make sure we can get as much stuff done as we can. Operations, we have staff crossover. Policy alignment, industry standards. So across the state of Colorado, if not the country, the standard of joining these 2 things that are looked at as leisure time, leisure studies was my degree actually, and what is that? And that is arts, parks, recreation, culture, things that you do in your leisure time. So bringing these 2 departments together really made sense. Our advisory commission and the PROST board, we're aligning the processes and how we function and the focus of each one of those. And then, of course, the ease of venue use. So, of course, we had Exercise class, yoga classes, cornhole. Who did cornhole in the ballroom? Anybody? That was great fun. Arts and culture use of the parks, Riverside Live, Art Walk, and so on. So being able to coordinate and using those different venues has been a benefit. And we've taken on special event permitting. So staff person, Rafi, she's new to the community, new to our staff, is coordinating among all the departments and staffs in venue spaces. Here we go, PAC to ACAC. So the Public Art Commission has now changed to the Arts and Culture Advisory Commission. This has been a heavy lift. This has not been a super easy process. It's been a big learning curve for everyone. The Public Art Commission, was a 7-member board and really focused on public art. The Arts and Culture Advisory Commission, established this year, making history, is now a 9-member board and focusing on all the arts and advising council on arts and culture priorities. You guys approved this through the city code, and the ACAC purpose is to provide recommendations to city council. We are an advisory type board. Our powers and duties are to review submissions, evaluate budgets, recommend funding, and so on, and we function as a quorum. Let's see. A little reiteration of that in kind of layman's terms here, that the ACAC is really a voice for the community, advising on programming, operations, all the arts, working with planning and zoning on the creative sign review. That is a new task that's now being overseen by the ACAC. Used to be just in planning and zoning, and now creative signs, which are murals as well. Murals as well are being overseen by the ACAC. And of course, budget priorities. And we have a diverse board. I hope you're all getting my humor and my pictures. Okay, our budget. So in 2025, public art had $64,600 dedicated this year. A percentage of that was rolled over, so nothing new was put in. The 37.5 was not spent in 2025, so it was rolled over into 2026. Facility improvements down to $5,000. Programming, artist fees, and creative district funds in 2025 were lumped together in 2026, $81,000, essentially cutting about $42,000 from the budget that primarily Tina uses to bring programming to our community. And our salaries was also cut, although we're being rather efficient. We have changed some of our model from a lot of part-timers to full-timers dedicated to each one of the areas. For example, our venue coordinators have a full-time lead, our audiovisual tech have a full-time lead, and our facility now has a full-time lead. And by bringing these full-time people in, they're really committed, dedicated, and are much more efficient in their use of time. This is a breakdown of that $81,000 I had mentioned to give you an idea of where the money is being spent. This is Tina Gramman's world. She puts together a year-long Can you click on that 2026? I forgot I was not monitoring doing this. So Tina puts together a big spreadsheet. All right, take my word on it. She puts together a big spreadsheet that has laid out the whole year. It's fine. Has laid out the whole year, month by month, everything that's going on. And this is a breakdown of that. So the big hit there of 31.5 goes to our big community events. Art Walk, Chalk Fest, Jazz Fest, economic drivers, bring people in from out of town and is open to all. Our next big thing that is, continues to just be really loved and people love is Riverside Live, the Thursday night concerts in the park. And then our programming goes down from there as far as expenditures. Yet we feel all of these things are just as important, regardless of the dollar amount being spent on them. New programming this year so far is the Met Opera. Please come. It is streamed live from New York City. You sit in our little theater and you almost smell being in New York City and being there. It's just really special. Yeah. And calling all jazz musicians. This is a new monthly event that has just been wildly successful, free of charge for people to come in. We've had 30, 35 people each Wednesday, and we've done it, taking turns performing and playing jazz, and it's just been great. Next. Fear no art. Salida Heart's the art. So, we talk about art, but what is art? We have public art, we have performing art, we have visual art. And in a sense here in Salida, we can kind of lump almost everything we do into one of these categories. Obviously, public art has been very important and continues to be, recognizing that just a few months ago, we had an actual public art commission. And performing art now with a big focus on getting the steam plant back in order and building up and subsidizing and supporting the performing arts and visual art, of course, with all of our downtown art galleries and the programming that Tina does, bringing those classes to our community. In 2026, right now, we are working on a public art rubric, call for art, programming. This is very exciting. The Chaffey County Community Foundation, under the guidelines of Christie and Diesel, we've been able to start an arts and culture fund. So please, I urge all of you to go onto that site and give a little contribution. We have subcommittees starting, performing arts, public arts, and literary arts within our ACAC to give some focus to those specific areas. And our projects, we're working on mosaics on the cement planters downtown F Street, the art wrap trash cans, continuing that. F Street activations coming up. We're under $5,000 cost, doing a chalk canvas and an oversized loom possibly. And then we're working hard at researching grants and sponsorships to increase funding for our public art. In 2026, we continue to focus on cost recovery as well as survey results. Thank you all very much for committing your time, your effort, directing staff in this first quarter of the year to really focus on the arts. We worked with Civic Brand. They produced a public survey. We did a survey within the ACAC. We hosted our open house. Who came to that? Yay, that was awesome. That was really so much fun. And thank you for anyone that came to that to really explore the steam plant and the basement and the sound box and everything that goes on there. And then most recently, listening sessions. And we are expecting any time for Civic Brand to have a recap of all this survey information coming out. But in the meantime, we have our ACAC member survey. So this survey was done within the ACAC itself. Just our members, our 9-member board participated in this. But I feel that their comments are very much in line with the citizen comments. Really wanting to keep the steam plant available for community use is a big priority. Rental rates, maximizing community access. Again, we hear that all the time. Keep the community in there, make it affordable for the community. And then the bottom one under our operating supplies of 50% is creating a tiered rate for local groups. So again, as we work through our cost recovery, and you've given us permission to do that, and how we put our fees together through packages and so on, we'll continue to focus on good use of the facility for community groups. Steam plant open house. There we did a little project where everyone was given $200 worth of fake $20 bills, and they got to put them in different buckets, and it was really fun. And you could see people over there, and I think it really engaged with them when they're holding that money going, what would I really spend money on? So again, we are following in line with what the ACAC board members came up with of subsidizing the theater. Programming and live music, and then it goes down from there. Obviously, everything we do in arts and culture is subsidized by, city taxpayer dollars. There's no way that we can cover 100% of our costs. So we are certainly doing that as we speak. And our goals for 2027, we're not going to spend it all in one place, of course. We all learned that from our dads, I think. Public art. Really, we're looking for a long-term commitment to public arts. We would really like to keep a separate line item. So that we know what we have to spend on public art when either the commission itself comes forward with a project idea or we have an artist come to us with an idea. And the idea is that we need to grow that pot of money, not necessarily spend it down each year, because big, beautiful art pieces cost a lot of money. And so, how can we confirm that budget line item? How can we grow our pot of money and think about things like a 1% development fee? Can you go back one more second? Just I want to reiterate a little bit. Work on our updating of our plan for the creative district, continuing our programming. Again, Tina Gramman just does an excellent job within our community, and our operations. Exploring venue space rental versus a guaranteed payment, different packages and different cost recovery. Right now, the steam plant, Scout Hut, and our parks work on people rent our space. I would like to consider how do we, and we used this with Hazel Miller when she was here, we paid Hazel Miller a set amount of money, and then we sold tickets, and we made money, and Hazel Miller still got paid. But we got rid of all of this, gosh, are we gonna charge you $20 for a linen and $30 for tech, and when can you come in, and when can you leave? And so a little bit of that exploring as far as a guaranteed payment, which could also include paying an organization a set amount of money, but then once we hit a threshold of tickets sold, anything above and beyond, we get to split that benefit. So it puts a little bit more effort on the group coming in to also do marketing and promote themselves. So we're not doing all the promotion. And then, of course, our capital needs, please, for 2027, a roof and new front doors at the Scout Hut.
Well, that's all.
Well, we'll keep adding to that. That's all we need, man. All right, next, please. And thank you. This was awesome. This was at the open house. And to me, this is kind of how the steam plant is feeling right now. We're jiving, we're grooving, it's exciting. We got kids, we have adults, we have Shelley up. Shelley dancing right there.
Front and center, yeah.
I love it. So with that, again, I'd like to invite Reed or Lindsay or Diesel. If anyone has questions, we'll direct them to the appropriate person to answer.
Right. Any questions from?
Yeah, I have a couple questions, which I should probably already know the answer to, being your ACAC representative, but I don't. First of all, I'd like to reiterate that what Catherine said and what Diesel said. The change has been a heavy lift and it's been painful, but people are really stepping up and doing a great job. So Reed and Lindsay and Diesel and Catherine, I appreciate what I have seen you all come together to do. So thank you so much on that. And I guess I'd just like to say to this folks and all the folks listening and everyone in the community, really great things are coming, and keeping the faith and sticking with us through this as we kind of work out these kinks and keep exploring creative solutions. Stick with us, because it's really going to be a great thing, and we're really going to right the ship and keep growing. And so many thanks to all of you for all the things that you've done, including the folks listening who have stuck with us and keep showing up to tell us what they think and coming to the listening sessions and all of that. I really want to say that I love the idea of the guarantee rate versus the rental package. That's the kind of creative solution that I think is really going to address some of the access issues and give people some of the stability that they need, especially having operated a nonprofit for a long time. Being able to know exactly what I could expect to get out of an event as opposed to rolling the dice in a really big way is helpful for budgeting and just for some security around that being in a rental space. So I really appreciate that. And I want to make one clarifying question. Is that something they would get to choose? You can choose if you want to do the guarantee route, or you can choose if you want to just do the traditional rental.
It will be an option, because for some, it will be a real benefit and a win. For others that already put on very successful events, they would not want to do that, because they would be able to make more funding for their organization by doing it the old-fashioned way, just renting the facility, and then they sell their tickets. They do their fundraisers.
Yeah.
The,
I want to paraphrase what you said, because that
Yeah.
wasn't it.
My paraphrase would be, we aren't going to present anything to you guys or be able to answer any question because we haven't fully explored it until we got public comment and now your comments about it. So if we have permission to kind of start exploring that, that's what we'll do, and we'll come back with probably an answer to that. In our initial investigation, yeah, that's possible. And that would be something that would bring to you guys as, we have a couple options, what do you think? But we haven't given it a whole good old college try until we got some feedback.
Well, I love it.
I like the creativity of it as well.
So as Catherine was saying, there may be two choices, but that long-established one that is already making money and they would choose the one where they would make more money. So that's kind of what you said up there. I want the one that's gonna help make us the most money to put a new roof on it. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I want them to still come and the nonprofits and all of that, but
So we are working on that right now through our cost recovery.
Yes.
And if you look at the budget to date, we're performing, we're doing that already, so we will continue to work on our cost recovery. And we've also begun in exploring relationships with nonprofits, the Salida Council for the Arts, for example, that they could do certain things and they can seek certain grants that the city can't seek. And so we have multiple layers of doing things. And so I know that just one bullet is not gonna win the prize for us. We're gonna have to have lots of different options in here for really making the city some money.
Right, if we go back to the cost recovery document that Diesel shared with us a month or so ago, you know, you can see like moving into the future, some of the private events are, you know, our goals on cost recovery for those events are meant to sort of provide some revenue that make options like this guarantee more feasible, because we will be bringing in some revenue that should offset some of the subsidy or some of the, I don't know, missed revenue opportunity that we would see through something like this.
Yeah, completely understand, and that's something that we'll bring to you guys. It's to really help support some of our users to be able to take that step and know that they are safe, in particular looking at groups like the Notables who came to you frustrated that they felt like they had been priced out, but hadn't felt the safety or security to be able to explore with their model and how they did things. And so what we're doing is we're hoping that this might allow them some security to say, yeah, sure, we can continue and be a relevant and viable organization offering the service to the city of Salida, or the community of Salida, I should say, and we help them be successful, and therefore we're successful.
Right, in line with that top bar on your chart of, in the survey, you know, maintaining the community focus is the thing that came out on top. And so balancing that stuff with putting a roof on the thing.
So the priorities and how you saw how we're getting community priorities, getting AC priorities, and we will now spend the next few months doing what we said we were going to do: rubrics, call for entry process, developing out a budget, getting some costs for some capital needs, developing and having the 2027 season, so that the ACAC can get some feedback on that. And probably one of the things that we have been asked to do by the ACAC, and we'll be bringing to you in a few months, is looking into a more permanent and feasible funding mechanism for public art. Whether it's a 1% development fee, maybe look at exploring, you know, we're exploring a Parks and Recreation district. There are lots of models of districts. So that is our work in the coming months. And then we will be coming back to you, hopefully having made some progress, and again, update you towards, you know, August, September with where we stand for the year. And so that's the cycle that we are trying to get on for you from your appointed advisory committees.
Is the 1% development fee, is that gonna be like with the ticket that somebody buys and there's like a 1% fee? Like what is this?
That's more a new development, new planned development subdivisions.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
a,
So it is actual like development fee from?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at a lot of different models. Again, I'm not really ready. Don't take anything that I'm saying right here as we are in super initial stages.
Yeah.
But some of the examples that we've seen, yes, is like a 1%, and I'm not sure of what, of like the estimated cost of, it's similar to affordable housing, parks and recreation, or open space and parkland dedication. Like, there are models out there for this. And we, again, this is kind of my, I don't want to say warning because it sounds negative, but this is me saying to you, I've been asked to look into this just like 4 years ago. I was asked to look into how do we get a recreation center in Salida by the Prost board, and I have walked us up to this. We are now talking about a rec district and not at our level. It is at a higher level than us. So please be advised that that's.
Consider us warned.
Sorry. Advised, should have been the word.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to ask Reed and Lindsay, I guess from what I've understood, it's been like kind of a difficult transition for the board, or just not difficult, but just kind of challenging. And I think it was mentioned that there's some new subcommittees that, that can give some more focus to those things, but I just want to make sure you guys feel confident that like we are giving you the direction that you need so that you can also continue to lead this board the way that you want to, like confidently and stuff.
I think we are definitely getting more confident.
Okay, great.
I think just give us a couple months. If we still have issues in a few months, obviously it's a different conversation, but
Yeah.
I think the confidence is growing. Big time.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks.
yeah.
I feel the same way. I'm just gonna echo what he said. Yeah, we're gaining more confidence. We redid all the policies and the bylaws for the last forever, it feels like. So now that that's all done and we're getting back to kind of why we are on this board to begin with, which is to support arts and culture in Salida, then yeah, I think we're off to a great start and we've got some great projects on the horizon that we're really excited to share with you guys.
Thank you.
To point, I think one of the biggest pain points that was unforeseen. I don't like saying that something was unforeseen. It's kind of my job to foresee things and get in front of them for you. And what I didn't quite put together was the rollout of the land use code at almost the exact same time that the PAC turned to the ACAC, and the addition of creative sign approval landing squarely on the ACAC, who has really no experience in planning and zoning land. And what a staff report from a pre-application and a concept review, like it's just been a lot. And that alone has taken a lot more time than I thought. Even when I learned that it was gonna happen, it's been hard to make those two worlds jive.
So, because I don't want to speak for Bill or the planning commission, but I think that in their mind, they're like, we aren't artists. We don't know what this mural should look like or a creative sign. And to you guys are like, we're not planners. So is it like, do you think it'd be more feasible if they, I don't know, like if they went through the process without the actual like image there, like this is the size and the dimensions of stuff, and then you guys are the ones who approve the actual picture or statue or I don't know.
So I think the part that's been, obviously I think there's like clerical confusion on Catherine Diesel's level, right? And Bill, like we haven't dealt with any of that. We don't have to, which is great. I think the confusing thing for us is the way that the code is written. So we got stuck in a couple meetings between like, there's an under 50 square feet rule, right? Where planning approves or denies. anything over 50 square feet within the historic district, right? Then goes under us, as long as it's over 50 square feet for that, I think, artistic approval. And then outside of that boundary, it goes back to planning. So it was just, that part is insanely confusing. And I think in the future, getting it streamlined would be incredibly effective for having like a universal vision for what's going on as far as visual art in town. If that made any sense.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah. Yeah, because again, it's just like creative signage. It's like creatives just it's just like a lot of the wording around it, right? There is this overlap of like, I mean, I remember as a small business owner, if I wanted to have just like a painting on the side of my building, that counted as a sign, even if it didn't say anything. And would I rather artists look at that or, yeah, tell me if it sucks or not, but.
Well, and now I'll go you one further. What about when it's being put on something that the city owns and manages, like a bathroom? And we're the applicant, the owner, or no, we're the owner, but it wants to be installed by, yeah, county organization. So we're the owner, they're the applicant, the county's the applicant, and then the ACAC, city appointees, are the approvers. Like, we'll figure it out. It's just, wow. The like if-then statements right now are kind of like, and of course, we all know land use code. They didn't think of it either. And we're gonna end up coming back with some adjustments for this, that, or the other thing. So we'll
Yeah.
what's that?
Sounds like a lot of cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, and that's where, again, I think a lot of this, like we changed the scope, and then all of a sudden we got buried in the weeds about these creative signs or murals, which we want to do murals, but why do we call it creative signs? Like it's, so we'll figure it out, and I would echo, not just with the ACAC and its procedure and its routine. If this creative sign process hasn't been figured out in a couple months, we'll be coming back to you because there's something wrong.
And so there are murals that are allowed, right? Murals are allowed?
Technically, there's no such thing as a mural. It is a creative sign.
And they
Okay.
were just allowed like recently, within the past like 6 months.
Okay.
We've been trying to
Because
get
I
a
just,
mural.
All murals are creative signs, but not all creative signs are murals.
okay. Okay, because I just, at the listening session, someone mentioned that we don't allow murals, and I was like, I thought we just did that in our land use code, so, okay,
Yeah.
just misinformation, which
We
is
don't
fine,
allow the word of
but
the year.
We don't use the word,
The word mural anymore, that's it.
And I think just to throw out there, and I know at the meeting that I sat in, I already kind of clarified a lot of it, but I think it is the realization that we took your limited scope of public art and we expanded it greatly because of our need to have the arts and culture feel represented. And then that lended itself to you guys having conversations about things that, wasn't your purview and certainly wasn't being presented before that decision. I do appreciate rolling with the punches on that, and at your last meeting, recognizing that, kind of honing in on that, the structure and the procedures and the plan and these subcommittees, so it's just so we can both have that goal of casting that wider net, so that everybody within the arts, feels like there's an avenue of representation. And bearing with us, I appreciate that a lot. That's, not easy, challenging. But not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, new boards are challenging anyway, and then we just decided to put it on steroids, I guess.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other thoughts, comments?
No, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, and now, last but not least, police department overview. Chief, come on down.
have theme music.
I know, that'd be really cool if we did.
Right?
Play
Because
some
let them
tunes.
choose their own walk-up song.
It's the cops TV show.
Oh my
I
gosh.
think you might choose something other than that.
No, but like, that would be so good.
We're talking about getting you an intro song, and it would be Bad
nice.
Boys for sure.
I'll try to keep this brief since it's already after 7. Just going to give you an overview of the police department, kind of what we're looking at currently. This is our rank structure. You've obviously got me as the chief. We have an administrative commander and an operations commander. The administrative commander is in charge of the school resource officer, the evidence, the investigations, the records division, and then the operations commander is strictly in charge of the patrol staff. Underneath that, there are multiple supervisors that work each shift. So the way it works on a Monday, on day shift, currently because we're short, you have a supervisor and 1 officer, but you also have detectives in the office, myself, the patrol commander. So if anything happens, we can step in. At nighttime, you have a supervisor and 3 when we're full, a supervisor and 2 when we're not full. And then it kind of just flows down and everybody filters back up. So you can switch to the next one. Right now, our biggest challenge is staffing issues. I kind of hinted at this during the meeting we had a couple of weeks ago. Currently, street officers were down 4. I do have 1 that's currently in field training. He won't count on the count until after he completes that. This was a kind of a luck hire we got, individual, his wife, her family just moved to Poncha Springs. He was cruising through the area, coming out to see them, asked if we were hiring, and I said, absolutely. He brings 11 years experience from Tennessee, so that's a really big win for us currently. He will do his 12 weeks of training with us, then he'll do it's called a post-mini academy, where he'll go do his arrest control, his firearms, his driving, and then challenge Colorado's post-test. Once that's complete, he becomes a full-time Colorado officer, and we should have him on the street by the end of July, so we're getting close. Outside of that, I've got 1 in the academy. I've got 1 going to the academy in August, and we have 1 open position that's not spoken for. Our hiring process is lengthy. Typically, we'll advertise for at least a month. Backgrounds take 2 to 4 weeks. It's very important that we do thorough backgrounds and hire good officers, because that can bite us on the back end if we don't. For instance, this kid we hired from Tennessee, we spend the money, we go out to Tennessee, we talk to his employer, we go through his personnel file, we drive to their house, we talk to their neighbors, very thorough, so we get a true representation of who we're about to hire. Once that's done, then they have a medical and psychological exam they have to take, and then polygraph. They will get an offer at that point. They have to then complete the field training process. For an officer that's coming in post-certified, that's an additional 12 weeks. For a non-post-certified officer, that is 18 weeks. The hang-up when we're hiring non-certified officers is we have to go through that whole process. We have to advertise, we have to do a background, we have to do the polygraph medical exam, and then we have to wait on academies. So if we miss an academy cycle, for instance, if we hire somebody after August, then that person doesn't go till the January academy, which then sets us back even further. So it's really challenging to kind of fit those hiring parameters into an academy cycle.
Are there only 2 of them per year, January and August?
That's typically the 2 cycles. They follow college semesters. There's an academy at Glenwood, there's an academy at Colorado Springs at the Pikes Peak State College. We have used other agencies like Denver, Springs, Pueblo. They are big enough that they have their own academy that they run people through, and they run those kind of all over the place at different times. But getting an officer into those is very challenging. And then what we found is they just try to recruit your officers the entire time they're there and steal them from you. So it's kind of counterproductive.
They poach, gosh.
It's rude.
Any other questions on the staffing side of things or kind of how things shake out? Okay. Going on to training, you hear me talk quite a bit about training, why we need training dollars in our budget, why it's so important. The state only mandates 24 hours a year once you're out of the police academy per officer. Out of that 24 hours, 4 of it has to be in arrest control, 4 in driving, 4 in firearms, then the rest can be whatever you want. What they don't account for is when you hire a new officer, they've got to go to an interview and interrogation school to learn how to interview people, to learn what signs to look for, to tell when people are lying or telling you false stories. They got to go learn how to handle crime scenes. We'll do limited training when they're in their 18-week FTO program, but they have to go learn how to package evidence, how to properly label it, what would be considered evidence in the first place. Crisis intervention, that's the one we try to get everybody to as quickly as possible. That's a 40-hour training that's done with drama kids, and they'll come in and act as people facing mental crisis. And then the officers in front of their peers have to work through that. And then after each scenario, they'll sit there and critique each other. Why'd you ask this? Why'd you do that? And it really opens their eyes to, maybe I could have handled it differently. I could have said something that was a little less invasive. So they go through that. It's a 40-hour class. Domestic violence training, sex assault training, juvenile training, and narcotic training. When you get narcotics, what's a narcotic? What do they look like? Not everybody has experience or gets to deal with that when they're in their training, in their 16-week. They may not come across it, so we send them to specialized training on that. That's just basics. There's many more classes that new kids need to go to. That's just the basics. All those take time, all those take money. When we're shorthanded, when I'm talking about 2 people on a shift, if one has to go to training, now I have 1 person on that shift for the week. So backfilling becomes a problem. So staffing is definitely our #1 challenge. Go to the next. Just to kind of give you a rundown of different classes, I always I try to hit 200 hours of training a year per officer. We haven't hit that. 180's been the closest we've gotten. Last year we were around the I can't remember exactly what I had in the presentation, but it was like 150-ish ballpark. But other classes, when you become a detective, you've got to go to death investigation, homicide investigation, advanced crime scene, advanced interview. So the list just continues when you promote to different places. Then on the continuing ed side, every year we get new stuff passed in Denver, or the Supreme Court makes a ruling, either the local Supreme Court like we had for the sound ordinance, or the big Supreme Court. They make rulings, so we have to learn what the new changes to the laws are. Search and seizure, that's what, if people are really entailed in search and seizure, that's what keeps our liability down, not violating somebody's Fourth Amendment right on a case. Courtroom testimony. Field training is, so every officer that trains the officers that we have in training has to attend a 40-hour field training course, and they have to learn how to train people, how to effectively evaluate what they're doing from day to day. Little things, radar, taser, we have to do yearly just to keep up with state mandates and regulations. Standard field sobriety, we have to do that yearly. Use of force, I just sent an officer, got him nationally recognized as a use of force expert. Very expensive, 80-hour process, and that officer left. So now we're back to square one. But the time, money invested into that, when they leave, it just creates a hole that we have to refill, and it costs us more money in the long run. Every supervisor we have during their first 12 months has to go to a 2-week supervisor class. It's an 80-hour course just to kind of teach them how to lead people, how to supervise. It's a little different being a supervisor managing like a street crew versus a police crew, just because of the dynamics of the job and the different liabilities they gotta pay attention and be aware of. Train the trainer, I put that on there. This is one we've been fighting with Colorado Post. If you're an instructor in anything that we have, firearms, arrest control, driving, taser, radar, you have to attend Train the Trainer to be completely certified to teach. The state, after I went to Train the Trainer in 2005, advanced Train the Trainer in 2007, and I've taught I don't know how many hours of trainings across the state since then. I'm now not certified to teach because the state just changed how they're doing Train the Trainer. So now everybody has to go redo that, and it's a 40-hour class. So little things like that, when they make decisions at the big state level, really affect us, and it really hurts on the smaller agencies because we can't pull from 20 officers and have a person down for the day. Our SWAT team, they train every month, 10 hours on the second Wednesday of every month. And then there's a few more in there. Records release is really important for the supervisors when people come in to get reports, what we can and can't release, just to, again, limit our liability. Go to the next page. I wanted to point out kind of our calls for service in a 7-year span. Since 2019 to 2025, we've gone up roughly 115% in calls. We went from 5,381 to last year, 12,143. And in that gap, there's been so many state mandates and so many changes that our time that we have to spend per call has gone up exponentially, which makes it extra challenging. So if we have 2 officers on call for the day and they end up getting a domestic violence situation, those officers are pretty much off the street for anywhere from 1 to 2.5 hours, just getting the victim stuff done, the person arrested up to the jail, doing interviews with the victim, doing interviews with witnesses, and then trying to interview the suspect at the jail. When there's only 2 people on, then we have a traffic accident or anything else that may happen. Then that's when we get in the kind of hairy situations where they have to make a decision. Do we go to that? Do we ask for help from Chaffee County? Can something wait? A lot of times if it's not anything pressing, it'll just wait, and then occasionally I'll get the call, how come people didn't get back to me for 3 to 4 hours? Well, here's why. They had this, and this last night, and only 2 people are on. So it becomes a little challenging just with the amount of time some of these situations take. Last year, I would say our average just run-of-the-mill report is usually a page to a page and a quarter, single-spaced, and we had multiple cases that had 25-page single-spaced reports. Imagine how much time. It's like a college thesis sitting there typing a 25-page single-spaced police report. I put in the state mandate stuff just to kind of, it's coming. We got into body cams in 2018 before they became popular and before they became mandated. We saw the need for them and how they would help us as much as they're just, it's probably the best piece of equipment, honestly, that we've had since I've been a police officer. But now the state's mandating stuff, they just made a change to when officers wear body cams, if they show up on a scene and do not have a body cam on, anything that they say or put into a police report, the defense can get that taken out. So it's kind of gotten super extreme on one end. And then the body cam companies are now starting to get monopolies. And now the cost, just to prepare you, the latest quote we got is 160% higher than what we started with. We're definitely working with them. We do have to have a new contract going into 2027, but we're definitely working with them, seeing what we can eliminate, get rid of, or how we can get the cost down, because quite frankly, that's ridiculous. But we are mandated by the state of Colorado to have them. There's no getting away from costs. We just need to try to manage the cost and get it to where we can afford it. Citizen contact, it's another thing that each officer has to do. if they contact anybody in the community, if they make the contact, then they have to fill out a citizen's contact form. That is now done on an app. When we first got the mandate to do this, everything was free, and now all of a sudden it's $100 an officer a year. So these little things keep nickel and diming and adding up, and we're collecting all this data, and they're really not doing anything with the data. It's just sitting there. There's been some changes to sex assaults and some of the stuff we have to keep in evidence and ways people can report stuff. So they can take now exams at the Alliance, and then even if they don't want to file a police report, we still have to go collect that sex assault kit, and then we have to store it in our evidence. So there's, again, more cost down the pipe that is not funded. They just changed our drug testing. I don't know if you guys heard this the last couple of weeks, but we are no longer allowed to use the NIC kits, which is a chemical compound. It's a little plastic vial, and it's got 3 chemical compounds in it. You crack one, shake it, crack the other one, shake it, crack the third one, and it pops a color. That color tells you if the drug is hot or if it's not during the test. We are now no longer allowed to use those in Colorado. They've been challenged. There's probably a 1 in a couple 100,000 false positive, but they ruled that we cannot use those anymore. So now we're searching for grant funding to get a digital testing kit, and those are anywhere from $35,000 to $50,000. So until we get a grant, we're simply just going to have to send them to the lab and do the long route, because I'm not going to come ask for that right now. Domestic violence, there's a new state law that's going through right now that's going to force a private independent person to meet with victims if they meet this 15-question form. So if it passes, there's a new form we're going to have to fill out on every domestic violence case, and then we cannot use our normal victims advocate, the one that's paid for by grant funding and the county that we all share here in Chaffey County. We will have to use an independent victims advocate, and currently we do not have any of those available in Chaffey County. So somebody's gonna have to come up with that. We're gonna be forced to create another position. More than likely it'll land somewhere near the Alliance's lap, but more
See me
mandates.
after.
More mandates that we're being forced to do with no funding. Our training and our court cases are often shifting. I will be in, again, asking for more training dollars, but I just wanted you guys to see just how much training we have to do just to keep up and stay current. A gamble that we play is when we train officers, they are like very attractive to other agencies. When you're in a smaller department, you literally have to know everything. You have to do everything. When we hired Leo Flores he was in Austin, Texas, and Travis County, did 25 years there. And when he got here, he's like, I don't know how to do this. They go to a call in big cities, they make it safe, they leave. The crime scene team comes in, the investigating teams come in. In a small town, you have to know how to do everything. So that makes it very lucrative when our cops are applying at other agencies up in the metro chasing the money. That's why I'm always harping that we've got to pay our cops to want to stay here.
And so, Chief, on the drug DUI testing, so you're taking them somewhere and they're doing a blood test? Is that how you do your testing now?
So on the drug stuff, we'll have to send everything now to CBI up in Pueblo, and they'll do testing for it. On the DUI testing, we used to use a private lab, and now the state is doing them all at CBI. And the backlog for DUI testing is typically 4 months right now. So if you get a DUI tonight, and you choose blood, we won't know the results for 4 months.
Wow.
Just for context, in terms of staffing levels, so you mentioned there's 2 officers on, a supervisor and a patroller during the day, 3 if we're lucky at night. When you had a call volume of 5,381 in 2019, how do the levels we have now compared to what you have then?
We've added 3 officers. We had a second SRO position, and when the school quit paying for that, we converted that into just a regular officer position. We've added 1 investigator position, and we've added a patrol position. So we've added 3 positions since 2019.
So in 2019, during the day, you just had 1 person there?
No, in 2019, during the day, we typically had 3. We had 3 and then 3 at night.
Okay.
And how's 2026 numbers looking, call volume wise?
We'll probably land somewhere close to 2025-ish.
Okay.
I don't see any like crazy spike going on so far this year, but it'll probably be similar.
But essentially, you're operating at 2019 levels because you're 3 men down.
Essentially, yes.
Well, I guess I'll just say that I've read the reports that are 20-plus pages, and I imagine it does take a lot of time. And I've had officers reply to my office, and I know how long it takes to do what you got to do, especially if we're talking about a sex assault exam. So I know the demand and the time and how long it takes and how much that takes you guys off the street. And I'm hearing you talk about even more. And while I'm sure there are very legitimate reasons that all of these new requirements exist, to your point of like stuff passes in Denver, that makes a lot of sense in Denver, but it doesn't always translate here.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
only we were home ruled
If
municipality.
only. So, you know, given that public safety is a pretty non-negotiable service with municipal governments, I hope that we can find some way to provide at least some of the resources that are necessary to meet, you know, more than twice as much from a few years ago at the same levels. And to keep people in our community who are skilled at this and have good relationships with places like the Alliance. I mean, when I was there, and we would have officers come that you know, they would have built relationships with our advocates, and we knew like they're gonna take care of business, you know, we can trust them to collaborate with us, et cetera. And so I would love to see us able to keep people that we have good relationships with and that have good relationships with our citizens in the community, and not, you know, pay for a bunch of training for them and then lose them. That's just me talking.
Maybe we can send send like a marketing team to, you know, try to poach kids out of the academy. I mean, you know, it sounds like that's already being done.
Yeah, we had a kid from Pikes Peak a couple weeks ago that we interviewed 7. So we have had some applicants. We interviewed 7. Of the 7, 2 got a job offer. 1 made it past backgrounds and is going to the academy. The other one failed his background on the first day we started it. So,
Well, that's bullet dodged.
but it's good we find that stuff and don't employ them.
Perhaps inappropriate.
How often are we going out of state to do background checks? Like how often are we like, using travel
I would say in the
funds?
since I've been chief since 2018, dating myself, but we've gone to Texas, Tennessee, and Kentucky, so 3 times.
Okay,
So it's not very often.
yeah.
It's Johnny Cash.
It usually costs us about anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500 to go out of state, because you got to get a car, you got to get a plane ticket. But, money well spent just to make sure we're getting good people.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I did go look to see like, you know, how much is budgeted for travel and stuff, and if there was a budget line item for that. So I just didn't know like how often we go out of state.
Yeah, and a lot of that travel line item that's in our budget, we get a lot of training, not a lot, but we get some training that's free. So I've been on the Central Mountain Training Region board since 2008. I just keep staying on it. But it's a good resource for us because Post gives us a post grant, typically about $165,000-ish. And then some of that goes into grant management, some of it goes into supplies. but about 120 of that goes into actual training dollars. So we meet once a month, talk about what classes we want to host for the region, and then typically we'll have a class. It doesn't make sense for us to host them because then 25 students are paying lodging and hotels. So a lot of times they'll have the class in either Pueblo or Springs, where most people can go home at night and not have to pay lodging. So we end up going up, getting a free class, and then we just have to fund the hotel and per diem part. So it's a big win for us. Most of those classes are anywhere from about $600 to $2,500 a person.
That's great. They're providing it to us for free.
Not joking, by the way, let's do connect about the fatality. It's the fatality assessment.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a set of questions we ask people who've experienced domestic violence to gauge their level of danger. And it is kind of in-depth and takes a long time, but it's super important. So we should definitely talk about some collaborative partnerships we can get set up for you.
Great. Threw in some of our community partnerships, people we work with on a routine basis. Our Shop with the Cop event, we continually do that with the community support. Last year was our record-breaking year financially. A lot of support came in from the community. We actually have some money rolled over for this year to help kickstart that program. We still do the positive citations, pretty unique. I don't know of a lot of communities that do that. If somebody's walking their dog and they actually have them on a leash, we may pull over and say, hey, here's a positive citation, thanks for doing the right thing. And then they get to go to Brown Dog. We'll use it a lot at the schools. We do seatbelt checks when they pull into the lot. If they're wearing their seatbelt, they can go get a coffee down at Brown Dog. A pretty good program.
That's so cool.
The bike safety, we do every year at Longfellow with a couple of community partners. Coffee with a Cop, I harped at this at the community meeting we had the other night at the high school. Sometimes we get 2 to 4 people that come talk to us. Sometimes we get 20. It's a good chance for people to come ask us anything. We're there usually for an hour and a half, and literally we're an open book and you can ask us any question. A lot of school events. What's that?
When does that take place?
Just randomly. I would say about 75% of them are at Brown Dog, but then the rest of them will bounce around to other coffee shops.
Why do you think it's so hot and cold too, as far as like attendance? I mean,
Couldn't tell you. We've tried it on multiple different days of the week. It's early. It's usually 7:30 to 9. People are getting their kids to school. It could be the timing, honestly.
I mean, it's like same for us, right? It just depends on what's going on in the community.
Yeah, totally. We try to hold those once every 3 months. We used to do it a lot more frequent, but we just weren't seeing the numbers. We still work with FYI. We still are a part of the sexual assault response team, the adult protection team, the domestic violence council. We still work with Crime Stoppers, Chaffey County Drug Task Force, and the Chaffey County SWAT team, kind of collaborative with Buena Vista and Chaffey County. And then the big item for 2026 is the new PD. That's a picture of what it looked like when we purchased it. We met with the architect, went in and actually laid tape along the floor so we could kind of visualize it and make changes. And definitely gives us a better location. It's gonna be nice to be able to be on the highway to kind of hop out east or west or cut straight downtown. Less pedestrians walking. We see a lot of people nowadays walk this trail, then they come up and they funnel out of our parking lot and go back down to the park. It's adding about 4,000 square feet to what we currently have. It's definitely a long-term location. I was talking with John Diesel the other day and he was asking some questions, and quite frankly, we should be in that building before my time. Like, we'll be there longer than my time. So it's got plenty of space in the back. If 30 years from now they need to build something bigger, they can push out the wall and then go up a little bit. So I don't see that PD moving for a long time. Super economical. I was doing some research, just trying to find like what an average like
low needs police department build would be, and the average was 6.8 to 7.5 million. If you want to get like high end and add all this tech stuff, you can get up to where Chaffey County's at in the 14 to 16 million range. We're going to be in this. I'm still hoping we've cut a bunch of stuff because of the roof issue. And then we had some asphalt issue out front, so we're going to have to redo the asphalt. But we already had money budgeted for that. So we're kind of trying to play whack-a-mole and cut some things here and there. I still think we'll be 3.5 complete. Don't hold me to that, but 3.5 complete.
This is a public
Wrote it down.
It's recorded.
And DOLA is covering 758,000 of that. So economically for the town, it's a really good bang for our buck. There's progress right now. The entire inside is framed. You can walk in and like visualize where things are at. I've had the staff over there walking through, the excitement's through the roof. People are pretty excited. It's a good morale boost right now for the PD. Especially when we're shorthanded, guys are working extra shifts, going over there, seeing the smile on their face, knowing we should be in it by December is a really good feeling for everybody. I do want to offer, if anybody wants to go over tonight after you leave, to walk through and just kind of get a rundown of what's gone on up to date. More than welcome to take you guys over there and check it out. Outside of that, I'm open for questions.
Questions? Anyone?
Kind of down and dirty fast. Didn't want to take up too much time.
So you mentioned that the asphalt improvements have already been budgeted for. Could you speak a little bit about like the roof, or maybe more about that?
So the asphalt originally, when we did the initial kind of assessment and walkthrough and put it out for bid, we thought we could just do an overlay or do some patchwork. And after Chuck Murphy from PMS came and looked at it, he's basically said it's got to be a redo. So we're trying to talk to the neighbor. We do have a shared space access agreement off the highway to our lot and then the neighboring lot. So we're trying to talk to them to see if they want to join in and offset a little bit of the cost. We had about $45,000 budgeted for that in the bid, and we're going to come in about 35 higher because we're going to have to redo the entire lot. But we've cut out, we had some film that we were putting on the windows that would make them bullet resistant. We've taken that off. That was about $57,000. So we've already made some savings that should cover some of it. The roof, we bought the building as is because she took off $100,000 from her asking price. Because of that, we didn't do an inspection. And then when they did bids, they kind of like peeked up in the roof and looked at it, but until somebody actually climbed up there and kind of assessed the situation, if it's still open, we had a hole open with insulation out from the ceiling where you could see it. It's really just tin, metal, and then 2x4s and then trusses. Mm-hmm. There's no moisture barrier, there's no plywood or OSB board. It's literally, I don't know how it's lasted. It has lasted like that since its existence, and we've had some pretty heavy snows. I'm just not willing to I'm not willing to put a couple $1 million into the bottom floor of that, have the roof give out, and then I'm coming back going, hey, we have a big problem. And insurance would obviously squawk at that because it's not done properly right now. Does that answer your question on that?
Yeah, so I know we talked about it a little bit. You said you were maybe gonna start looking for any like grants or anything. I was just wondering how that's been going at all.
Yeah, I haven't been able to find anything so far that we can utilize. We're kind of a little bit stuck because a lot of the grant processes right now are for like down the road, and we have to have this DOLA money spent by, I believe it's May of 27. And a lot of the grant cycles are already for like next year.
And then sorry, I might have missed it. Did you say what the cost is gonna be for the roof?
We're not 100% done yet, but ballpark 150. $100,000.
I wish it was $150, Stephen, but.
And that'll be a 30-year warranty, completely redone roof. We could spend more and get a 50-year warranty, but I think 30 is good enough for the cost.
Considering it's been doing so well already, I mean, it's obviously. A
Somehow.
roof, I don't know. Any other questions, comments?
Thanks for doing a great job of, making this all happen for way less than what everybody else is able to make it happen for.
Yeah, definitely. We're always, if Amy was here, she'd back me, but we're always the nickel and dime department. We try to look at it like it's tax dollars, it's not our money. How can we get the biggest bang for our buck from patrol cars all the way down to pens and paper? We're really tight. There's no fluff in our budget because there really doesn't need to be.
I mean, considering the issues that the sheriff's department building has had, I mean, I think it sounds like we could be doing a lot worse, so it's.
Yeah, it's just, we hit a home run on this and got lucky with the timing and the cost, and we wouldn't be able to do it without
And I
the
think
building.
like you mentioned, there's room for growth, like in the back, which is, that's great. I mean,
So
that's like forward thinking there with that. Which
Yep,
is-
on the inside of the building, there's extra officer stations that are unused, we wanted to kind of show growth, and going to DOLA, we wanted to show that we weren't thinking about today, we were thinking about later to have a better chance. So we have extra officer stations, and then we have 2 extra offices for future detective and SRO stuff.
Awesome.
So there's definitely, there's a good 15 years worth of growth already built into it.
Well, keep us posted on the grant funding search for a digital drug testing kit. And, yeah, if there's no other comment, I guess we can check out the building.
Wait, do you
We
think
could
that
convoy and
there's,
check out the building.
Maybe for body cams, I don't know if there's maybe grants for those too, but
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
'Cause
there
you
are-
mentioned there's like a pretty big increase coming, so.
There are grants. A lot of the grants are for like agencies that are way behind the 8 ball and haven't started out, getting them up and running.
Yeah.
And there's grants for small agencies. We're right on the cusp of that like small agency, medium agency range. We did apply for grant funding 2 years ago and didn't get any. That's the same year we wrote a grant for our in-car computers, like the officer computers, and we did get that. But we didn't qualify for the body cam, but we'll definitely, any grant we can get to offset costs, we definitely jump on those.
Awesome. Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
325 West Highway 50, the old thrift stores.
I know where it is.
I've thrifted there before.
Is that for your feet?
Yeah.
Nice.
On the 2014 contract.